Thanks. I guess from a, oh, I need the little, oh, here it is. Thank you. Sorry. It's interesting you come to a health and medical seminar and we're going to talk about funding. We bring in the tax guy right off the bat. But with respect to the Scientific Research and Development Program, I'm just going to do a quick summary, I guess SR&ED 101 Reader's Digest version. I know there's a couple of companies in here that have taken advantage of the program. I think there's a lot that haven't, and I think from my perspective the program's a little underutilized. Sorry, which one? There we go. Anyway, the program objective, it is part of the government science and technology strategy. The program is designed to encourage businesses to undertake SR&ED in Canada to develop newer technologically advanced products and processes. As you see that bottom quote, I actually stole that from my friends at IRAP, but SMEs account for 80% of new jobs and 82% of all new technologies. This is the target market for this program. It is available to everybody, large companies, but the SMEs specifically are our target because that's, again, that's where the technology and the jobs are coming from. I'll talk a little bit about the what the incentive is, but essentially the SMEs get an enhanced rate and they get it refundable, so it's cash back in their pocket. What it provides? Broad-based support. So it covers every industrial sector, and it's meant to do so. It is the largest single source of federal funding for industrial R&D, and it represents about 25% of all federal funding for industrial SR&ED. Annually, about $4 billion to more than 20,000 claimants. Now, I guess I report to the Calgary region, which covers the Prairie region, which is the 3 Prairie provinces. In the Prairie provinces, we probably have about, give or take, 2,500 claims, about $600 million in ITC. So I look at that as, especially in Alberta, being a booming economy as it is, why we would only have 2,500 claims in the 3 Prairie provinces. So I think there's a lot of companies out there doing R&D that are not taking advantage of this program. I always get asked, so I figured I'd just tell you why it's with the CRA, because everybody says, well, shouldn't it be with Industry Canada, perhaps? But basically, it's for administrative ease. So the system's already in place. The tax system's always in place. It's always going to be there, as you probably well know. So the funding for the program can go to the people we want it to get to. So that's one of the reasons. And it's because it's set up as an investment tax credit, it's easy to run it through the tax system. It also lends, more importantly, long-term certainty to the program because, A, it's an entitlement program. It's not a granting program, so there's no cap. If you do the work, you meet the criteria, you get the money, period. It also requires an act of parliament to change it because it's actually in the Income Tax Act. So that lends certainty to, as you well know, a lot of R&D projects don't just last a year, right? They're ongoing, and if you're going to rely on this program, that's the decision factor as to whether you're going to do R&D or not. You want to make sure it's still going to be there when you're halfway through your project. So what is an incentive? I guess the important part. Basically how it works with the tax system is you incur your costs first. The old system used to be the old SRTC, we'd give you the money and then hope you did the work. That didn't work out very well. A lot of money went missing, so we said, yeah, it's not going to happen again. We changed it in 1985 to say, look, you do the work and we'll pay you kind of a year at a time. So you do the work for the year, file a claim with your tax return, you can write off all the R&D expenses, and then we're going to give you the incentive. And as far as the write-off goes, you just accumulate them into a pool of SR&ED expenditures. This pool can be written off immediately or indefinitely, and capital expenditures, which you normally have to amortize over the life of the asset, can be written off immediately. So it all goes into this pool. And the reason for the immediate, the indefinite carry forward is because, again, often companies doing R&D early stages aren't very profitable for the first 5 to 10 years. Losses fall off the table for tax purposes, so we don't want that to happen. We want you to be able to deduct that once you become profitable. So you get the immediate write-off or indefinite carry forward, write off your capital right away, and we'll give you a check for up to 35 cents on the dollar for each eligible dollar spent in SR&ED. It's a very lucrative program. The idea is that 35 cents, of course, goes back into your R&D to help you fund your continuation. What is it? It's defined, of course, in the Income Tax Act, and I'm sure you're all writing down Section 248(1) because you're going to want to go and look it up, but I'll just tell you. It's a systematic investigation or search carried out by means of experiment or analysis in a field of science and technology. So that's the how, right? It's for saying, your scientific method, which somebody had up there today earlier, right? Your develop your hypothesis, your procedures through to analysis and conclusion. So that's your method. And then it has to be undertaken for the advancement of scientific knowledge for the purpose of creating new advanced products and processes. So that's the why. So basically we're just saying you're trying to advance the underlying scientific principles in a broader sense, right? So we're just trying to advance the technology. That's what it's all about. And that's in that. So if you're doing that, you qualify. I'll tell you in a bit how we measure it, how we determine if it's eligible or not. These are categories. Again, these are actually defined in the Act. I'm not throwing this up because I don't think you know what basic and applied research is. I know this group does, but this is defined in the Act to say, look, for greater certainty, it covers basic research, applied research, and experimental development. Now, experimental development probably represents 85 to 90% of what we see. It's usually new product and process development. We're starting to see a lot more applied research now in biomed, for example, some of the life sciences, so I'm happy to see some of that going on now. And of course, basic research. I don't see a lot of that. Program-wise, a lot of it's done in the university, which is funded differently. But again, it's available. It includes the support work. Basically, this stuff on its own, the program is not designed to fund commercial or pre-commercialization activities. It's designed to develop your R&D to a point, and then our program stops. And then there's other government programs that take over, such as WD and IRAP, CJ's here. There's other programs to carry it forward. But routine engineering, for example, would not be an eligible activity because you're not doing a systematic investigation, you're just doing routine development. However, if you need to do it as part of support for your R&D, or testing, for example, if you build a prototype, the R&D program says, okay, you're doing an investigation to see if you can make this prototype work. The prototype is developed, now you go, well, you have to test it to see if it works. So you're going to do routine testing to test your prototype. That still qualifies, right? That's a support work. The 3 criteria, this is not in the Act, but this is how we measure it. So if we come out and do a review, and it's a 2-part review, and we don't review them all, of course, but basically you file your claim. We have a screening process where somebody looks at it and goes, is it kind of in the ballpark, yes or no? Or can we understand it, yes or no? And if we can't, then we're going to call you, see if we can get clarification, or we might have to come out and visit. When we come out, it's 2 parts. We have science staff, guys with PhDs, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, IT guys, and we have financial staff. So the technical guys are going to look at these 3 criteria. What's the technology? Are you trying to advance it? How are you trying to advance it? What are the technological obstacles you had to overcome to try and get there, or try to overcome? You don't have to be successful. Success or failure is irrelevant as long as you're trying to achieve that advancement. Obviously, we'd like you to succeed, but if you don't, it still qualifies. And then, of course, the financial guys just look at the expenditure rules because there's certain rules, certain things you can't claim, and cost allocations and stuff like that. Now, you heard Kevin earlier talking about a chemical and mechanical engineer being on a different page. Throw an accountant into the mix, then it gets really bizarre because they do not speak the same language as the engineers, I can tell you that. But so for example, in Edmonton, we have financial and technical staff right on site. So they all work together to do these joint reviews.